Hi, everyone. We'll just wait another minute or so as people filter in.
And we're technically okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Luke.
Kurt, you missed a good presentation last night.
Yeah, I saw your email. I saw Megan's email. Looks like you had 30 or so people at least again.
30 machines, 45 people.
That's incredible.
Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. Good to see you all. I don't think anyone here doesn't know me, but I'm Clayton Smith, Chair of Parks and Public Spaces Committee for CB5. Our full board meeting is actually a week from tonight, which is a little bit different from our normal timing. So check cb5.org for those meeting details and to register. I'm excited to have items on the agenda tonight, which are mostly conversation items and updates from the Flatiron bid, from the Bryant Park Corporation, and from Madison Square Park Conservancy. So thrilled to have you guys with us. Before we start tonight, I did want to just kind of give you guys an update. Last month, we heard from the Municipal Art Society and New Yorkers for Parks about their proposal for the position of the Director for Public Realm in the New York City administration. After hearing that extremely robust presentation from them, we have been discussing how best to move forward as a board in support of that proposed position. And so accordingly, last night, they came back to the Land Use and Housing Committee, and there was another great discussion at that committee about the ways in which this position would affect POPs spaces and the proposed revisions to the Secra manual and other shadow impacts and zoning stuff in particular. The Transportation Committee is also going to have them, and all of our input together will then go to the BEX Committee, and the BEX Committee will formally hear all of this input as part of our formal budget request. And so if anyone is interested and is not on those committees, please, as usual, feel free to attend those committee meetings, in particular next month's BEX committee meeting, which I think will be a really, really fascinating conversation around everything with our budget request, but in particular when it comes to this proposed position and the ways in which we might be able to advocate for both long-term and short-term for the next annual budget proposal for this position in public space and the public realm in our district and in the city. So I wanted to give you guys an update about that. And with that, we will begin. I'd love to welcome our Flatiron bid. Kurt, hello, welcome. I think we've got an up.
Hello.
For the winter, is that right?
Yes, it'll be for mid-November through the end of the year. And Luke, are you able to pull up the presentation, or should I share a screen or something like that?
If you have it up, you can share, but if you'd like me to, I can.
Let me pull it up real quick. One sec. Are you all seeing anything at all or no?
No.
Okay, Luke, if you could pull that up, that'd be helpful. I've been having a little bit of a, there we go, a little bit of a tech issue today, so I apologize in advance. My name is Curt Kavanaugh. I'm the Director of Planning with the Partnership, formerly Deputy Director, so I still say that sometimes. Thank you all for having me this evening, and I'm excited to share our plans for this year's holiday installation. And if you go to the next slide, please. It's hard to believe now we are in our 7th year with our plaza design competition. We developed it in 2014, to kind of serve initially as the centerpiece of our holiday programming, and to add a highly visible kind of Instagrammable landmark to the plazas during the holiday season. I'll next take you into kind of a quick memory lane from Flatiron. 2014, the first year we did it, Inaba won our design competition, and they brought New York lights to the plazas. Next, in 2015, Soft Lab came in with Nova, which was beautiful. 2016 was a really cool installation with the arches that supported, I think it was 9 hammocks through the North Plaza, and kind of gave an interesting perspective to kind of re-engage with the plaza and surroundings. In 2017, future expansion, a Brooklyn-based firm brought in Flatiron Reflection. They kind of very creatively kind of reimagined the Millennium Park Bean in Chicago with paper tubes. So it didn't cost $500 million, it cost about $30,000. So it was the very affordable version of that in some ways. In 2018, we became very happy on the plaza with Studio Cadena's installation. This unfortunately was the one day that it was actually snowy and looked that, that wildly interesting with the bright yellow, but that was about 7 minutes after the installation was finished in mid-November, and we saw no snow the rest of the year. And last year, I'll be very unbiased and unprofessional here and say that was my favorite. Last year's Ziggy by How D'Souza. Really cool news on this piece is it's going to see a second home in the coming weeks. So sneak peek to that. It'll be at the corner of Water Street and Fulton Street in Lower Manhattan for the next 3 to 6 months, depending on how it kind of folds up. But that's very exciting to see a second home for that piece. And then for this year's RFP/RFQ process, in years past, we have worked with Van Allen Institute and DOT Art on this project, and we continue to do so. In our previous years, we reached out to firms through a closed call RFP that Van Allen managed. They're an urban design nonprofit. And we asked firms to submit fully thought out proposals. This year, partly due to COVID, partly due to just cost and consideration for the design teams, we just asked them to submit their portfolios to save time and energy during this weird time we're all in. On June 9th, Van Allen released their shortlisted RFQ. By the deadline 2 weeks later, 6 firms had submitted. The following week, partnership senior staff and Van Allen design staff reviewed those portfolios. And shortly after that, partnership and Van Allen held interviews with 2 finalists. And this year's installation, go to the next slide, will be Point of Action by a firm called Studio Cooke. Point of Action is a collection of 9 individual units, 6 on the North Plaza, 3 on the South, which for the first time in our 7 years, this will incorporate both plazas. Each unit is about 8 feet tall and is constructed of a metal frame with 1/4 inch recycled orange polypropylene rope wrapping the frame. That creates sort of a curtain, or what I like to consider as a frame within a frame each. And below each unit will be a 6-foot in diameter non-slip decal with radiating circles installed via stencils via paint, biodegradable paint. And those will kind of intersect and play nicely with each other. And those will be 12 feet and 18 feet in diameter, with that brush stroke being about 2 inches wide. Each unit is ADA accessible, and it will be bolted to the surface. You can go to the next slide, please. That's looking south from the North Plaza. And then to the next slide, please. At night, exterior rated battery-powered LED strip lights will be inside the frame and provide illumination, or a spotlight effect even. And the units will be oriented toward one another in groupings of 3. And the idea is that it will encourage viewers to connect from one unit to the next, and also to see each individual viewer in an interesting way. If you can go to the next slide. Design and fabrication design is complete, fabrication has started. Nina from Studio Cooke is the lead designer, and that's her fabrication installation team there. And I'll read Nina's kind of thought on the piece itself next. Go to the next slide, please. Nina Cooke says, "We are at a threshold during the pandemic. Now that our eyes have been opened to realities that have been with us all along, how do we move forward? My hope is that point of action makes people think about how we connect to the people we see every day so that we can move forward together." Nina's studio is based on West 14th Street here in Manhattan. She's also has a studio in Montclair, New Jersey. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, Dwell Magazine, Architectural Record, you name it. She's done some really amazing work. A lot of it's in residential. She's done some commercial work. One that comes to mind is the Planned Parenthood office in Newark, New Jersey. The interior there is just now beautiful. And she used to teach architecture and design at Syracuse, and now practice, in addition to her practice, teaches at Parsons. So she's very much in and around the district. And go to the next slide, please. Point of Action will open November 23rd. And again, this is brought to you by the Flatiron Partnership, but also with our friends at Van Allen Institute, and it is permitted through New York State Department of Transportation's Art Department. We look forward to opening in about a month and a half. So I'll open to any questions. I will say, I usually now hand the baton to my partner in crime, Megan Garcia, our Director of Programming and Marketing, but we are trying to figure out what kind of components we can actually include this year in terms of public programming. And we may, obviously, we may lean more toward the virtual this year, but we will kind of play it by ear right now. But that's where we're kind of thinking at the moment.
Thank you, Kurt. Members of the committee, if anyone has any questions or comments for Kurt, you are welcome. In the meantime, Kurt, I'd love to just ask, it's so interesting that it hadn't actually occurred to me you'd never used the South Plaza before for these art installations. Why is it that now you are, and actually why is it that you hadn't before?
The real reason is initially we had it before was cost. We do have overnight security on the North Plaza during the installation. This year I kind of just pushed it and wanted it, to be frank. But another reason is we wanted to socially distance and space out the installation itself. The 6-foot diameter circles below are on purpose as well. So people will stay hopefully that far apart and then some. But we thought it was really important to activate both the North and the South Plaza, just to have more this life in the plazas. We're still down 60+% for plaza pedestrian counts right now. Some people have returned to the district for sure, but it's a far cry from the normal, obviously, foot traffic in the neighborhood. But I think activating both spaces is something I've wanted to do for a while, and I think this year it's a good year to try it out.
And when it comes to the social distancing, do you, I mean, I don't think that there's normally like queues for these art installations in the winter, but is there any kind of increased concern about just having somebody monitoring that over the course of this?
Yeah, I mean, we've always, and will continue to do so, have our public safety ambassador team on the plaza during the installation, and then the overnight security. Once in a while, we'll get a queue of people on a beautiful, clear night that want to take a picture with it. Last year with Ziggy, we saw some surprisingly long queues, even when it was very cold in December. But for the most part, it's we're not worried about real crowding, but we'd like people to engage with it and enjoy it. But we're not thinking it'll be lines down the block.
Yeah. All right. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Are there any questions from members of the public? Just use your raise hand feature in Zoom. I don't think we have anyone calling in by phone tonight. We have a question from Timothy Neeson. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm with the Museum of Mathematics. Hello, Kurt. I don't know that I know anyone else on the committee, but we often bring things out to the plaza at different times and sometimes find some way to connect what we do with the artwork. That happened in particular with the hammocks, because when the hammocks disappeared, we were able to bring in this other artwork, and the lighting structure did so well to illuminate what we wanted to show. But in any event, we have something called maze mats, and there's room in the image that you're showing in the lower pebbled area is a place where we could lay out these 15-foot by 15-foot vinyl logic puzzles, which are a great favorite. I don't know if it's possible to share screens. And I think that does raise some questions about social distancing. If there's one person per puzzle, then it works, but that would take a bit of discipline. So I'm a little hesitant to say that that's a great idea, except that it is a great idea in terms of people just enjoy them tremendously. On our side, we would might have the staffing to be able to come out there on a couple of occasions in the evenings. It would usually just be me. But I just offer that as a possibility. And it's something, people will be standing there trying to figure these things out. It's a good, it's a spectacle. It's a good spectator sport. People like watching other people trying to solve these puzzles as they walk around.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Timothy. It's nice to have you here. And as you communicate with Flatiron Bit about this, please just keep us posted about any updates to the plans.
Very good.
Thank you.
And yeah, Tim, thank you for the comment and the question and the recommendation. If you want to reach out to myself and or Kim or Megan with our team, please do so. I absolutely love what you all did in 2016 with the hammocks.
Yes, right.
That vertical wall puzzle was just so fun. And of course, we've always really we love our partnership with you all, even in the summertime with the I'm blanking now. Fill me in.
The solstice with the human sundial.
The sundial. That's right. Right.
And it's very often a dog rather than a human, but it works pretty well.
It works very well. Yeah.
And that, of course, is another sheet vinyl. So that really is exactly the same size as these puzzles. I do want to also mention that the museum, we're shuttered now. We aren't sure, we're looking toward ways to open, and we will be opening at some point with a very interesting art exhibit with sculptures that are quite interesting to view from different angles. I know there's the whole process with this artwork here. This is beautiful. I can't wait to see it. But this is really a separate conversation, but about something very interesting that could be a set of sculptures that could be deployed that are very visually interactive, and there's a whole virtual program associated with it where you can walk around with a phone and place these sculptures physically that don't exist in the plaza. So maybe Kurt will have a separate conversation about that.
Absolutely, yeah, and we're also here to help in terms of any kind of creative solution to a pop-up installation that maybe like on an open street or something that we can do with you all, DOT, the community board. So let's keep that conversation going and reach out to us directly right now if you can.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And please keep us apprised of your plans. We have a question or comment from Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, are we looking at a raised platform that's going to be brought in on which these three artworks will be inserted or put upon with the paint, the red color?
No, Mike, actually the North Plaza, what you're looking at there is all 6 of the units on the North Plaza will be on that raised concrete curb that's still there. And on the South Plaza, they'll go directly onto the plaza surface, the epoxy gravel. Our team so the installation period will be from November 23rd opening through January 2nd or so for when it's removed for deinstallation. Our clean team staff overnight will power wash the paint away. So what we're hoping to get is it all off, of course, and there's no like residue below it. At the same time, the North Plaza concrete curb there is still part of the temporary plaza. So one day, when things are, in a hopeful near future, not too far away, we are able to get a reconstruction of the full plaza. and the South Plaza hasn't been resurfaced in its life. So what we're hopeful for is that any sort of resurfacing of Broadway south of 23rd Street will also incorporate a new plaza surface for the South Plaza. So, but Mike, to answer your question, no, that's on a surface that already exists, and it'll be built just like the previous years on that raised curb area.
Thank you.
And Noah, you've raised your hand.
Yes. So I just had a question about the lights. Luke, if you could go back to that slide, please. Are the lights going to be on 24/7 or like during like the course of the whole night?
They will probably be on all night, but we can see if it becomes a problem because they'll be on a timer. We may be able to time them off at a certain time. We can look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. They're battery powered, which when I first saw the concept, I was a little bit worried about a ton of wires going to a box electric power source, but these are going to be all battery powered LEDs and should be not incredibly easy to replace in terms of public can actually access the battery source, but the design team will have access to it through their maintenance team.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And Kurt, remind us again what the installation duration?
Yeah, sure. It'll officially start to build in Friday, November 20th. Open to the public officially Monday, November 23rd, Monday, November 23rd through January 2nd, 2021.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, I will thank you, Kurt, for your time and for sharing this. It's very exciting. We look forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
Thanks. And while we are at 23rd and 5th, why don't we hear from Madison Square Park Conservancy? I see Robin's smiling face and Brooke is here too. So I will leave it to you guys. I know you have a few updates for us, so let us know what you'd like to address first.
Fantastic. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. I wish we were all in person, but nonetheless, we have this great technology. I'm going to share my screen, and Brooke and I are going to be sharing some updates. And I think somewhere in the computer are Tom and Steph from our team who might chime in as well. So let's see here. And everybody see this okay?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So I'm going to put this in fancy presenter mode. So Madison Square Park, like all the parks right now, we are really serving as an essential service. The park has not closed at all during the pandemic. When we hit kind of the beginning of March and everyone was kind of in their homes, sent home our entire staff, both the park staff and the office staff, so we could regroup and figure out how to be safe in caring for the park. And the Parks Department helped out with some trash pickup, and we had folks coming in to mow the lawns from our lawn company. But the care that Stephanie Lucas, who is our Director of Horticulture and Operations, put into kind of putting safety precautions in the park for both the staff and visitors was really incredible, as we all reacted kind of in real time to this crisis. Our team came back full time at the beginning of June, and you may have noticed there's some shipping containers behind the Shake Shack. We actually created an outdoor break room for them with running water and hand washing stations because they typically are below the Shake Shack with PEP officers, the Shake Shack staff, and many others, and it just kind of wasn't safe. So they've really set up a good set of operations. Here they are, our park staff. On the backs of their t-shirts, there's a really nice image about social distancing, and the public has been incredible about respecting one another's distance as well as our staff as they care for the park. We had 8 deaths amongst our staff in terms of family members and friends due to COVID. So it's just been a hard time, and now there are big smiles behind those masks. They are really back in action and really happy to be back in the park. We, typically, as Kurt said, we'd be engaging the community in programming and lots of activity. And right now, we can't do that. Keats Meyer, who's there in the center, who's our executive director, myself, and Brooke, who is our chief curator, are doing bench hours where we are meeting at a distance with different constituents and partners and friends of the park and dog owners and families. And so we're there to listen and talk, but we're not doing the big programs that we usually do throughout the warmer months. The park, similar to Kurt, we're seeing a reduction in visitors, but the people who are coming regularly and loving it and using it. It's not pictured here, but we have social distancing circles on the lawns where people can go in a circle and know that they have some space to relax. We also have had all of the lawns open full time, which, as many of you know, we usually rotate the lawns throughout the summer months and the fall, but we really want to make sure that everyone had enough space to spread out. So the grass doesn't look perfect right now, and that's okay with us. It's more important that people can kind of spread out. The other thing I want to mention about the park is that, there's no Kids Fest, there's no concerts. We have chosen, for many reasons, to not do any programming in the park, because when we do it, people mob to our programs. We are doing a few things, which I'll talk about here in a second, but that is different. We are working on the ways that we communicate with the public, and you'll see some new kiosks in the park. And this is just a way for us to make sure that we're communicating with folks. You will see these change in terms of messaging and signage. We have a planned communication plan for that, but recently things are popping up at rapid speed that we're not prepared for, so we're ready to change them on a moment's notice. We're also working on a new website and really thinking through our social channels to keep people informed about what's happening in the park. The horticulture, you will see, flowers and trees and everything is growing and looking healthy. We did lose a few trees in the storm that now seems like weeks ago, but we're making sure we're keeping, the park clean and green and safe. I'm going to pass this over to Brooke Kamen-Rappaport, who's our deputy director, and Martin Freeman, chief curator of the art program. Brooke.
Thanks, Robin. Hi, Clayton. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm happy to see all of you, even on this side of the screen. You can go to the next slide, Robin. So, as you know, we had a project planned with Maya Lin that we talked about at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago. That is now postponed to open in June of 2021. And we have commissioned an artist, Abigail DeVille, who her studio is in the Bronx, to realize a project that will open in 3 weeks in the park on October 27th. The piece is called Light of Freedom, and this quote from Frederick Douglass, who was the abolitionist leader, is very significant to the foundation of the work. We thought it was important and imperative for a public art program to work with an artist who could respond to the despair and the exaltation and turmoil of this time that we are living in. We asked Abigail the question of how she would respond to this period, and she came back answering with this work, Light of Freedom. The quote, the most well-known part of this quote is Frederick Douglass's statement, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." He said this in 1857. Go ahead, Robin. So Abigail DeVille is an artist who looks to history to summon past stories, untold stories of people. And so she has researched the history of Madison Square Park. And some of you may know this, the arm and the torch of the Statue of Liberty were on view in the park between 1876 and 1882. Next slide. This inspired the artist in researching her project, as did the fact that the statue, when she was being built in France, was enclosed in a scaffolding originally, and then again when the Statue of Liberty was being restored. Next slide, in the mid-1980s. So the scaffolding has become an important metaphor for the artist. Go ahead, Robin. This is the piece called Light of Freedom. This is an artist's rendering on the computer. It will be a sculpture of the torch and flame of the Statue of Liberty. Inside the armature is a found bell that the artist found, a historic bell that's very time-worn and beautiful and still can herald sound. And then through, although not visible in this picture, there will be arms of mannequins that are sort of beseeching the viewer. That's a reference to the first enslaved Africans who came to New Amsterdam in 1626. They were 11 people from Angola. Abigail wraps the project with a scaffolding, and we can have the final slide now. The scaffolding will be painted a brilliant, luminous gold. She feels very strongly that a scaffold is a constant image in New York City. It's a work site. It's something we all confront every day. And she's painted the work a brilliant golden color to talk about the luminosity of work and the luminosity of the struggle. So the piece references history, African-American history in New York City. It references the Statue of Liberty and the questions of the promise of granting liberty for all. And it also summons the current Black Lives Matter movement. I think it's going to be an extraordinary sculpture. It'll be on view from October 27th through January 31st on the Veterans Lawn. Do you have any questions?
Members of the committee, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the raise hand feature. I think this is a remarkable installation, and it's extremely timely, and also I'm amazed at how quickly you put this together. When it comes, a similar question as to Kurt with the socially distancing as far as people viewing the work, you know, what do you anticipate? I know in the cold months it's not quite as, and you also have reduced visitors right now anyway, but is that something that you're concerned about?
I don't think we're concerned about it, Clayton. I mean, people are self-regulating as they go out into the world and into the park. And the piece is 13 feet high by 8 feet wide by 8 feet wide. So it's a substantial project. It's not colossal or monumental, but it's, you know, it will certainly have a strong presence on the site.
And Clayton, I would also add that, you know, typically we have a large event to kick off each project, and we will not have that. We will have kind of Abigail and some of her close friends and friends of the art program see it intermittently, but we won't have the big party that we usually have.
Right. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mary.
Hi, I am blown away by this proposal. I can't wait to see it in person. I feel a little stupid asking a general question, but I don't know if we're going to lose you two right now. So Robin, could you maybe say a word or two about the rat situation in the park? And are you being inundated? Are you getting the help that you need? Yes, people are trying to use those lawns and actually sit on them.
Sure. I mean, I think what I might do is go through the rest of the presentation and then address your question at the end.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if we were going to return to a general.
You're stuck with me for a little longer.
No, I love it. Bring it on.
So looking ahead, I do want to just let members of the public and the committee know kind of the rules that we're functioning on in the park. So as I think everyone knows, and not sure about the guests, but Madison Square Park Conservancy is the nonprofit that cares for the park. So we're on park land, but we're a separate entity. We raise 100% of the funds to care for the park. We thankfully have been able to get through this year thanks to a rainy day emergency fund that the founding members of the Conservancy put into place back in 2003. So we've been able to pay our entire staff with benefits full time through the end of 2020. I will say that the Parks Department has just been incredibly helpful and responsive, but they also are strapped for resources at this time. The permitting office, you know, and you've been following along probably with Cuomo and maybe the Parks Commissioner's updates. We are now allowed to have groups of 50 that can apply, 50 or under, that can apply for a special events permit. They're not permitting very many events at all in any of the parks, but they have been very, very cognizant that our park, our 7.5 acres in the middle of tons of sidewalks and buildings, really just doesn't have the bandwidth for big events right now. So our gala was canceled, as I said, concerts, kids fests, etc. So really our job right now is just to care for the park and keep it safe. There are, the arts installation will be there from, as Brooke said, on the Veterans Lawn from October 27th to January 31st. The community has expressed a great need to help us, which is incredible. I get calls and emails constantly. How can I help? When can I volunteer? We think that leaf raking is probably the safest, most socially distanced thing that we can do in the park. So we will have 2 kind of volunteer leaf raking days where people can register in advance. PPE will be provided, and we will spread people out amongst all of the lawns. So those are exciting, but really that is all we have planned for the year. We also usually do our tree lighting in December, and have been doing it since the beginning of time. So the tree will still be in the park, it will be lit, but we will not do the big Mad Square holiday event that we do every year. And again, to Kurt's point, we're gonna find ways remotely using technology to be able to engage the community in different ways. And of course, everyone will be able to come in and visit the tree itself. I would love to take questions, and I'm happy to start with your question about rodents in the park. I am not an expert on the topic. Hang on, let me close. So I will just chime in and say that I think throughout the city, we're seeing an increase in garbage and in rodents. And I know the city as a whole has been made aware, and we are doing our best in the park to control it. We pride ourselves on not using a lot of chemicals and things in the park that will be harmful to dogs and children, and you know, without getting too graphic on pest control. You know, we walk that fine line in the park, but I will definitely take the feedback and share it with my ops team and with the Parks Department, because again, I recognize that is an issue. And we do have a pest control group that comes weekly. And so we'll of course share that with them as well. Are there any other questions from the committee or from the public? Oh, it looks like, yeah, it looks like Mary's question is on here.
Yeah, anyone who still has a question or comment for Robin or for Brooke, use the raise hand feature. If you're a member of the public, no one's calling in, so you can also use the raise hand feature. And while we just wait a couple minutes for that, I want to just applaud you guys for your work this whole time. This year has been truly unparalleled. If anyone on the committee or in the public does not already receive the email updates from the Conservancy, I find them to be particularly helpful and optimistic and clear about things that are actually happening on the ground. So if you're interested in getting more regular updates, I would encourage you to go to their website and sign up for their newsletter.
Most definitely. And if you're interested in one of those park bench visits to learn more about horticulture or art or community engagement, that's my job. And Keats is also always available, our executive director. And I wish I had a marketing event to share with you because it would really help our income right now, even a small. I don't.
Yeah, I know. We were all kind of looking forward to seeing how the new iteration of Eats was going to unfold, and it looks like we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait for further developments to see that happen.
Yeah, most definitely. We'll see potentially in 2021, but I don't think any of us have that crystal ball that we wish we had to be able to. We'll be back. We'll keep updating you, and we really appreciate the support.
So if no one else has any questions or comments, then we will let these guys go. Thank you again.
Thanks so much, Clayton. See you soon in the park.
Thank you so much. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And last and certainly not least, we have Rachel from Bryant Park Corporation here with us. Thanks for your patience. It's great to see you. We had gotten an update from them about the evolving plans for Winter Village this season. So we wanted to invite her to speak to us about that.
Hi, everyone. I've spoken at a few meetings, so I recognize some faces. But if you don't know me, I'm Rachel Zurier. I'm the operations manager for Bryant Park. I do a lot of work on Winter Village. I feel like all year round is Winter Village for me. So especially this year, there's been a lot of thinking and planning that has gone into what we hope Winter Village will be. I will say that we're still waiting on permits from the city. We're working with them, showing them the same type of plans we're showing you. And we haven't gotten their official sign off, but we feel that we are close. And so that's why we're coming to you to update you. I will also say I loved listening to the Madison Square Park presentation about all of the wonderful things they've done this summer. Sorry, my cat is here. It's funny, actually, we are in the office 5 days a week and have been since May, but I don't have a computer camera on my office computer. So I came home early today so I could use my laptop. So that's why I'm on my bed.
The cat is welcome. If the cat has any comments, just let us know.
Yeah, I'll give her the mic at some point to share her feedback as well. But I was just saying, I'm happy to give any details or questions, answer any questions people have about our summer in the park. We have been open and staffed and doing things like hand washing stations and very small scale programming. So in the question and answer period, I'm happy to take questions about that as well. But the presentation is pretty exclusively winter. Okay, I'm gonna try to share my screen here. Let's see. Okay. I think that's what I want. Okay, hang on, sorry, I have to do something with my system preferences. Give me 2 minutes. Do you think it's something where I could forward the presentation to Luke and have him show it? I'm sorry, I thought I knew how to do this and apparently I don't.
Sure.
All right, let me do that now. All right, Luke, that's coming your way. I can do kind of a preamble first. So I would assume that most of you are familiar with Winter Village or have been at some point if you live and spend time in the Midtown area. It's traditionally an ice rink, holiday shops, and a seasonal restaurant or food hall concept, as we've done in the past couple of years. Oh, thank you, wonderful, appreciate it. We really are looking to bring this back this winter because there's a myriad of reasons. I mean, I think I echo what the Flatiron and Madison Square Park folks have said about the lack of foot traffic and vibrancy to the neighborhood now. I mean, park counts are right now about 30% of what they are on a typical summer, early fall for us. We definitely have a lot of empty office buildings around the park right now. And it's just the kind of bustling nature of Bryant Park in a typical year just hasn't been here. And obviously during COVID, we don't want everything to bustle quite the same way, but it's been pretty empty. So bringing that, some of those people back to the area, to the, bringing that economic investment back to the area. And also there's a number of small businesses and jobs that rely on Winter Village every year. So that is part of our aim to return it as well. We feel that, can you go back one more? Sorry. Just to the, yeah, thanks. We feel that ice skating is very easy to socially distance and is one of the few outdoor recreation opportunities that exist in the winter in New York City. So that's another part of the reason to move forward would be to provide that opportunity to New Yorkers. There's a lot less you can do outside in New York in the wintertime. And this is one of those things. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is the layout you may be familiar with from previous seasons. You'll see we have a number of holiday shops, those green boxes. We have a skating pavilion and a lodge, which were two large tent structures, temporary. And then the rink itself, which is a 17,000 square foot ice rink. And the blue area was a deck that's built above where the lawn is usually. And it's just an area you can walk around and sit, and we put out furniture and all that sort of stuff. So this is what you're used to. And then the next slide shows that this year we're expecting about a 70% reduction with shops at 30% of their former density. So a lot fewer shops. I guess, I don't know if you want to toggle back and forth between those two, but you can see the shops are now represented by these multicolor boxes. Every one of those colors is a shop, the pink, orange, and blue. They all represent shops, but you can see there are many fewer of them than we've had in the past. And this is all intended to help, decrease crowding. And also, to be quite frank, I mean, it's been a hard year for small businesses in New York City, and there's less demand from vendors who want to be involved in something like this. So we aim to provide that venue for those who do, but I will say it has been less of a competitive, fewer vendors are still out there, unfortunately. Can you go to the next slide? So we are, and I will say the next two slides show the holiday shops layout from the old Winter Village, so that's a little complicated, but just focus on the red arrows. We are especially taking care to preserve pathways through the park for those who don't want to participate in the shopping or the rink this year. So we have these clear pathways you can see with the dotted red lines, and those will be pretty much free of shops to preserve those desire lines for people in the neighborhood, office workers as they return, so that if someone doesn't want to be involved with any part of Winter Village and Bryant Park, they don't have to be, and also help, I think, with clear path and distancing. Can you go to the next slide? We're totally getting rid of those big, large tents I talked about. So the former skating and event pavilions, which are actually two tents, one's 2 stories, one's 1 story. And then the lodge pavilion, which held the bar restaurant, those tents will be gone. In their place, we'll have some smaller structures that will be just for back of house spaces. The public who come to skate will be having an entirely outdoor experience this year. They will put on their skates outside, they will check their bags outside, they will skate outside, and they will return through an outdoor area, and then that's it. So, and obviously, we know, unfortunately, still not very much about COVID-19, but we know that it is significantly less transmissible in an outdoor situation. And so our hope by removing these big tent structures is really just to make the experience much safer. Skating obviously is already an outdoor distanced experience, but trying to make all of the aspects of that process of getting on your skates and all of that also much safer. Can you go to the next? Thanks. So this is a 3D rendering, so you can see what I'm talking about. Those blue, I guess we'll start by the fountain. You'll come up either the ramp or these stairs. That area is where you'll get your ticket scanned. You'll go through that archway into the bench lace-up area. You'll wait in that line queue to get your skates. And I should mention, I'm sure I'm going to get possibly a question about queuing. We're planning to have distancing markers, staff enforcing 6-foot distancing. And also just reduced capacity in general. Fewer people on the ice, fewer people in what used to be the pavilions. cutting it all down to ensure that there's minimum of 6 foot distancing in these spaces. And then we'll have an entrance onto the rink from the skate rental area. New this year, it's going to be a one-way experience. So once you go onto the ice, you'll leave through the other half of that deck area. You'll leave on the other side. Yeah, I wish I could show you on my screen, but it's kind of in between where that light pole, where those string lights are in between.
Can you see when I move the cursor?
I can see your cursor, yeah. You want to go a little to the right of where you are. Yeah, over there. So you'll leave through that way, and you won't interact with any of the people who are coming in. So it's a one-way system to avoid doubling back and commingling, and then you'll exit. You can go to the next slide. So some other things that we're doing to keep the public safe this winter. We will be, I said, reducing capacities. So the number of tickets that will be available for sale will be a significant reduction from previous years. It'll be broken up into time slots to ensure that we can stagger people onto and off of the ice, stagger the waiting experience. We will be requiring purchase in advance or reservation in advance for those who are joining us with their own skates in order to collect skater information, contact information, so that if we do need to do any kind of contact tracing, we have a contact, one for each party. We will be requiring masks for the skating experience and for anyone going into a holiday shop. It's a little bit challenging. We are a public park and people walk through the park all the time. I think we're somewhat limited, and I don't think we can require, for example, masks for every person in the park the entire time. But if there's ever a start and an end of an experience, like going ice skating or going into a shop or something like that, we can absolutely require and will require masks for people in those instances. We have installed over the summer and will continue to maintain the use of hand washing stations, which we put where our water fountains used to be. So throughout the park, I think there's 4 hand washing stations with soap and running water for the public to use. And then also we'll be working to develop better or just increased cleaning protocols for our staff. For example, every skate is going to be disinfected between uses, high touch surfaces wiped down, the dasher board railing that goes around the rink is going to regularly be disinfected. So, we're really trying to make this a safe opportunity for New Yorkers to be outside and engage in recreation and spend time with loved ones. And we aim to make it as safe as possible. So with that, I think that's the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to take questions. Oh, I should have said there will be a Christmas tree this year, like Madison Square Park. We will be having one, we will be lighting it. We will not be having a big event to light it. In fact, most of the events and performances that you might be used to seeing at Winter Village won't be returning, definitely not in the same way this year. We may do very small scale pop-up programming, but nothing that would draw a crowd is the goal. Okay, I'm happy to take any questions about winter, summer, whatever you want.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Any committee members with questions or comments, please use the raise hand feature. And Rachel, while we wait for a second, I've had a couple questions. One is that I assume it looks like there's a little bit of a cluster of vendor booths at the Fountain Plaza area and off of 6th Avenue. And I wonder if the reason why you're not using the southern pathways of the park is because you're reserving that for the egress from the rink. Is that right?
Yeah, we're trying to keep a clear space around the rink, certainly, so that entrance from the west and exit from the south of the rink are preserved. But the other reason to that is, I think if we spaced retail out so that each kiosk was an island on its own, we actually have a fabrication problem there. We don't have enough sidewalls for all of the kiosks to be. Are you talking about why kiosks are near each other or why they're in strings of kiosks?
Near each other.
Okay. And then it's also about, knowing that shops do better when retail is near retail. So we've broken those out from each other, and we do have a plan that we're working with the city on, I believe, with parks, so that if we do feel crowding becomes an issue, we have zones we can implement where there's entry and exit points for zones of shops that we can control the capacity for. That would be our answer if there were any crowding problems. But given the type of foot traffic we've been seeing in Midtown, we're not extremely concerned.
Understood. I think my main question is probably about those two yellow ones right at the entrance of the,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, they seem, just because they're perpendicular and close to the other ones, it just seems like without some kind of managed entryway or queue there, how would you just prevent, it seems like there would just be like a cluster there from people arriving into the park.
Yeah, I can definitely take that feedback back to my team. I know that it's all still evolving. I know that one issue is that some of these kiosks are returning year after year and kind of have claimed their stake in the kiosk that they always have. And so I think it's been a mix of trying to work with the vendors and change things, but not so much that they feel like they don't want to participate in the activation anymore. But I will definitely, I see what you're talking about. I'll bring that back to the folks doing the design of the park at this point.
Thank you. We have a question or a comment from Mary. Go ahead.
Hey, Rachel, just quickly, it's really an inspiration that you figured out a way to have the ice rink open amidst all of this. It's really just, I'm blown away. My quick question is, I'm biking all the time throughout the city and the dearth of public restrooms available. I'm so happy you have those hand washing stations, but are you going to do any porta potties, or is that just not workable?
Yeah, so the Bryant Park restroom has been open daily from 10 to, I want to say 10 to 8. Those hours were somewhat in flux for a little while at the start of the pandemic. Yeah, oh, thank you for the cursor. It's located right there. And that will continue to be a service for people throughout Winter Village, the duration of Winter Village. When Winter Village pops up, there's also a need for supplemental restrooms because there's supplemental uses in the park. So we also have, I think, 7 unisex bathroom stalls in the rink area, and then another 3 or 4 near. We're trying to do kind of an outdoor pop-up bar area where there used to be a food hall in that northeast corner of the deck. Yeah, right over there. Which would be a significantly smaller scale than it's ever been before, but just a place to buy a drink and sit outside. And so there we would have another restroom as well.
And I had a question about the ticketing, Rachel.
Sure.
How are you, the ticketing has evolved over the last 2 or 3 years. And so I'm curious if you are still kind of having 2 separate areas for people who have their own skates and those who don't, or if now, because of socially distant reasons, you're having one queue and people have to wait even if they have their own skates. Or
yeah, so the way it worked in past years was actually there weren't 2 separate areas for people with their own skates and not. There were 2 separate areas for people who had booked online and who hadn't. And you could book online if you had your own skates. But last year was our first year implementing an online ticketing system, and we kind of tried to phase it in. And then we had people who we had never dealt before with people showing up for the rink who already had tickets, so we had to give them their own space. This year, everyone who's showing up for the rink will already have tickets. They'll either have bought them or reserved them in advance, or on site they'll have scanned using a smartphone or an iPad staffed by a member of our staff. They'll have bought them online that way. And actually that gray box kind of near the fountain, the gray rectangular area, we're planning for that to be, we're calling it the skate services booth right now, but a place where it's not a point of sale system, it's not a box office, but if you haven't been able to buy your ticket in advance and there are tickets available, a staff member can walk you through purchasing on your own mobile device or using an iPad for those who don't have those devices. So that the point of that is to make it as contactless as possible for everybody. Staff won't be handling, currency or cards, but also to try to have people plan ahead. And I think in the past, New Yorkers want to be spontaneous, want to make last minute decisions to go skate. I think the pandemic has changed a lot of how people go about their day. And I think more people are planning in advance to make purchases or pursue an activity or an event. So we're hoping that people are a little more used to that than they were last year.
I see. Thank you. That's very, very well thought out.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from members of the committee? And also I'll open the floor to any comments or questions from members of the public. Just use the raise hand feature. When it came to the summer season, and to Mary's prior question, how did you guys do with the rodent issue?
Yeah, it's funny. We definitely noticed the same uptick that we've noticed across the city. And part of this is because, you know, all the park dining that's happening right now has been outdoor dining. So I think there's potentially more food scraps around that we haven't had to worry about in the past. We've had reduced pickups from the sanitation department. So all of that put together, we definitely saw an increase. And I think we supplementally or correspondingly increased our pest control servicing somewhat, just the frequency of it. But it hasn't been that bad. I think it's been much worse in our sister district on 34th Street Partnership, just because the nature of streets and sidewalks is, for us, much friendlier to rats and tree pits and stuff than actually in the park it has been.
Right. Dave, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to know, is it the Department of Sanitation or the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene that does your, restaurant inspections?
Good question. I believe it's Department of Health that does restaurant inspections. Sanitation handles the trash pickups from the street.
Any other questions or comments? And Rachel, as everything moves forward, if there's any way that Community Board 5 can help with getting the word out about certain things, or with, getting a response from a city agency to help you out with something, any way that we can help further things along, we're happy to do what we can.
I appreciate that. Thanks. I think we're going to be looking to New Yorkers to come to Bryant Park this winter in a way that maybe we didn't need them to in the past as much. I mean, we still want New Yorkers to use it, but we were spoiled by all of the tourists that come to Midtown during the winter. And I think this year we're here for you, New Yorkers. We want this to be something that where you want to spend time and feel safe spending time. So I think we may, work with you all to help promote it to the folks who live in the area, because I think, the success of this project will depend on that.
That's great. Thank you. We'll absolutely do what we can.
Thank you.
And I think that I think we have no more raised hands. So Rachel, thank you again so much for your time, and please carry back to all of your colleagues our accolades for how well you've thought this through, and we look forward to a great season.
It means a lot that you say that. Thanks. It's been a lot of work, but I'm happy it's coming together. Thanks, Clayton.
Thank you. All right, everybody, without any further questions or comments, that is our agenda for tonight. This is the first time with no action items, and as long as I can remember. But it's great to see you all, and I feel like it was actually a really fantastic agenda to be able to hear from 3 such important stakeholders in our district with these public spaces. So thanks for your time, everybody, and we'll see you next week at full board. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.